Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1397. 1397. 3 away from 1400 episodes we have done here at Mike's Daily Podcast, broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in the last place on earth, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont. Today, we hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the Engineer. Wait, we're in Podcastro Valley 10 today.
Mike's Daily Podcast,
where it's going to be another warm one. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about
Mike's Daily Podcast,
my interesting excursion to the San Leandro Marina, and that's where I like to dance like a ballerina. And then I take my dog Basil, the boxer, and we saw some things that were flying up above us.
A flying saucer.
Wild.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Drones is what it was. Drones. What do you rhyme with boxer? That's a
Mike's Daily.
You're a tosser.
Podcast.
If you're British and you're mad at someone,
yeah,
you say, "You tosser." I'm watching way too much Doc Martin. I'm almost done. The last show that they have on Netflix was made back in 2011, and they all talk like that, like that with their accent, their hard R's, and they almost sound like pirates. And Louise on the show, she's so beautiful. Oh, Caroline Katz, wow, and Martin Clure, he's great. That's my little opinion. Hey, a bunch of people walked in, as you heard. Doors open and slam and shut. Look who it is.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, the gift shop supervisor. Why did they do that?
Because your name is so amazing. It's dramatic.
And here's today's podcast picture.
The podcast picture today is of the wonderful Basil the Boxer. When we were at Don Castro, it's called Don Castro Regional Park in Podcastro Valley. It is a beautiful little place with lots of eucalyptus leaves and branches everywhere because there's a ton of eucalyptus trees everywhere. And there's this little lake that's about an acre long. It's not very big. It's very tiny. It's a pond, basically. And people fish in it, and that's gross. I don't think I'd want to eat anything out of this lake, but people fish in it. And there's also a little pool. Kids go there. And if you go there on a Saturday afternoon, and I guess anyway, anytime on the weekend, I've been there on a Saturday afternoon, it is a party, man. All the little barbecue grill setups that the park already has there, you know, the permanent barbecue grills they got. Everybody's taking them all up. There's dancing, there's all kinds of music playing, different types, little hip hop, little rock, little country all going on. Ain't that America to you and me? Little pink houses and you and me. And so after this podcast picture was taken about 2 weeks ago, but yesterday I took Basil somewhere. Well, first off, on Friday in the marina, there were all these drones flying around. Friday evening, drones and fireworks. Lots of stuff going on in the sky, and that's when I saw Basil for the first time really freak out over a firework going off. All 4th of July, he was fine, but one going off really close and the big explosion in the sky, he didn't like that so much, so we headed straight for the car and left and went home. But there are all these people flying drones. By the way, I'm recording this at 7:56 on Sunday morning, and I didn't get much sleep. And I know this show is very erratic and all over the place. And I was talking to someone who, he's a longtime, legendary San Francisco radio personality host. And he was asking me, totally interrogating me about this show, about this podcast. What is it? What's it about? Explain it to me. He goes, I want you to explain it to me like people that want a show on my talk station, because he also is the program director for this talk radio station in San Francisco. He's like, I want you to explain to me your show in 30 seconds like we just got on an elevator and we're talking on the way up. I want you to, and I've asked you what your show's about. Tell me what it is now. And I don't know what to say about this show. It's a total mishmash. Maybe that's why it doesn't have 7,000 downloads a show. Like some people that I know are doing really well with their podcasts. But they have a specific honed-in focal point, a focus. And mine is more just, it's daily. I told him this is what I said. I go, well, it's called Mike's Daily Podcast. It's a podcast. It's daily. My name is Mike. Hi. I am Mike. And he goes, no, but what's it about? I go, well, we talk about news, we talk about pop culture, society, a little bit of art thrown in there. Wait, I don't know where the art comes in. I guess we have a little bit of travel because I'm talking about places I've been when I talk about the podcast picture. I guess the podcast picture is art. I guess this beautiful piano playing behind me is art. I guess when someone suddenly changes his voice and becomes a different character, that's sort of a weird bit of performance art. No? All right. What do you think, Chely?
Mike Matthews, I don't understand this show either.
Yeah. Well, it happens. So I explained that to him, and he goes, well, is your show, do you do your podcast every single day? And I go, no, I take Saturdays off. He goes, well, it's not a daily podcast. And I hate when people do that. I frickin' lose my bleep when they say that. I said, well, I do it Sunday. I used to not do it Sunday, but now I do it Sunday. Maybe I'll start doing it Saturday. But this is this guy that made that observation. He does his show that he does a lot of times is our pre-records, our shows he recorded 3 years ago that they replay. Like he won't have anything for that day, so he'll just be like, throw a canned one in. I never do that. The show is always, in fact, when Haley used to be on all the time, I remember one day, I'm like, Haley, you ready to do the show? And he goes, well, why don't you throw in a evergreen, which is another term for canned shows, a show that was recorded a long time ago that's not really time specific, so people won't really know when you can't tell the difference. And I said, no, that's not what this show's about. We don't do it. It's called daily. I do it daily. I may not do it daily. I do it just about daily. All right. For you people that are on me about it, I'll start doing it Saturday. But no, I can't. There's really no way I can do it Saturday. You'll just have to pretend that this Sunday show was actually done on Saturday, and at the tomorrow show, just work it out. At any rate, I found that fascinating. And I also found David Rothkopf fascinating. He was on C-SPAN this morning when I got in to Cafe Anyway, and the TVs here are all on C-SPAN because we want to be educated.
Mike Matthews, I hate C-SPAN. It's like so boring.
Chely.
I know.
We all need to learn things, is my point. And C-SPAN can teach us things. Oh, look who else is here. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, we heard a little joke before you started talking. Okay, good. Don't you love walking into a joke that you didn't hear, and it's an inside joke? That's what it was like watching that Rush dinner when the members of Rush were having a dinner and they're just throwing all these inside jokes back and forth at each other. And some of their hardcore fans know what they're laughing about. And then I was talking to my friend Mike Ockett in Ventura, who is the reason why I like Rush, because back when we were teenagers, he played me Rush. And I told him I watched that video and asked him if he had, and he mentioned something from that video and laughed about it. And I'm like, I don't get it. What was that joke? I don't. But David Rothkopf was amazing. He was talking about how the average 10-year-old today, the average 10-year-old is going to live to 100. the average age that a 10-year-old today will live to is 100 years old. And that means that our Earth is going to have many generations living at one time. He said we'll be a world with 5 generations, which is fascinating to me because as Generation X, I have difficulties. I've never really had difficulties talking to baby boomers because I am almost right on the cusp of Generation X and baby boomers. And then the greatest generation, or whatever they call the generation older than that. I think Tom Brokaw called them the greatest generation. I have had no problems with that. Millennials, I sometimes have a little issue with because the little things happen that, well, they'll say something and I'm like, what? Why do you believe that? That seems totally non-progressive from what I thought the direction was that society was going, and you think this total anti-backward view. And they also like to take a lot of my time because I talk to them. And we end up talking, and I think the millennials that I talk to, we lose all track of time, and next thing I know, I'm late. And I guess what I'm saying is I could talk to millennials all day. I love them. And I learn a lot from them. And I think that as more generations are all living at one time, if you're not the type that can cross-talk with the and be intergenerational with your communication, it's going to be a hard world for you. That's just my observation about it. Anyway, Basil was at Berkeley yesterday. That was the other interesting thing we've done in the past 48 hours since we last spoke. Yes, he was walking along the campus of UC Berkeley. I've always wanted him to take him there. Whenever I've gone to UC Berkeley, I usually take the BART, and I walk around by myself, and I never get to take my dog. But last night I took my dog, and I'll tell you something. Every cute young college girl was coming up to me. Oh, what a cute dog. Oh, I grew up with boxers. Oh, and there was an interesting thing going on at UC Berkeley. Saturday evening, so this is about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, somewhere in there, and they're doing this mass dance-off thing. It's like a choreographed dance, but there's different groups of them in their main plaza that got next to Zellerbach Hall? It's this big plaza. I forget the name of everything at Berkeley. And it's all renovated and brand new, and people, all these different groups are dancing to different songs. It was like a musical. Ta-da! It was amazing. It was like a big Berkeley musical. And they were singing about protest and about tear gas being thrown at them. And no, they were dancing to different songs, and they had all these cool little moves all set with groups of people, like 20 people all dancing together. It was awesome. So that was a fun evening. All right, I think we've summed up pretty much everything going on in the world. No, we haven't. We haven't gotten to the MIKE MATTHEWSMENT Park. We're going to do that in a moment. Check out MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST-1397-Tenure, a wonderful website with all kinds of cool things on it. Past shows, past podcast pictures. Actually, if you want to see all the Cafe Anyway characters, they are rendered in cartoon form by yours truly. You can see those pictures at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. You can help out the show through the Amazon link. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, go through that link at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com first, and that helps us out. And there is also the PayPal link. If you help us out that way, you'll get a special greeting from all the Cafe Anyway characters, and you'll become an inglorious Mike's Daily Podcaster at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. And you can call me at 336-MM Daily. A big thank you to Sylvia, who listens to the show. I don't know if she catches the Sunday show, but she told me Friday, she sent me a compliment via text, because she texts the show. You can also text us at 336-MM Daily. And she said, hey, the singing was right on today. And I thought that was nice of her. I think I sang a little bit of Tim Finn from Split Ends and Crowded House. And something else, but we occasionally just burst into music here. But not today. I'm barely keeping my eyes open. Not much sleep. All right. Oh, and by the way, on my way to work, I forgot you have to have a key card to get into the building, and I forgot that, so I had to drive all the way back home and get it. What a day. Okay, here's the segment called
Mike's Matthewsment Park.
The front panel will close automatically. Please remain seated at all times.
What a ride, what a ride, what a ride. Sean Spicer had quite a ride, didn't he? His tenure is done. But his verdict on much of Saturday Night Live's relentless parody of his White House press secretary role, his verdict on it, now that he's stepping down, he says, I think that there were parts of it that were funny, but there's a lot of it that was over the line, he said to Fox News. He was talking to Sean Hannity, who I knew back at UCSB a gazillion years ago, back when he first got started and when he was thin. Hannity, he was talking to him in an interview. It wasn't funny, it was stupid or silly or malicious, he said. The White House announced Spicer's resignation on Friday, a move that came as Anthony Scaramucci was tapped for communications director. Throughout his relatively brief tenure, and I like the word tenure, don't you? It's like a fascinating word, tenure. No, maybe not. He has been skewered on Saturday Night Live, being portrayed by the lovely Melissa McCarthy, who got her start on Gilmore Girls, playing the character of Sookie, the cook. And then, of course, rose to fame with the Bridesmaids movie. And now she's done a gazillion movies since then, some really, really bad. But she portrayed him as a short-fused and frustrated defender of President Trump. And now we can watch them all those back-to-back, those wonderful renditions of Sean Spicer, and go, that was an interesting time in American history. Sean Spicer said to Sean Hannity, there were some skits on late-night television that I did crack up at, so sometimes it can be funny. Some of the memes you have to crack up about, but sometimes it goes from funny to mean. Yeah. Well, that's, humor. Hey, have you heard of Grand Scala? I found out about it through Bing today, because on the Bing homepage, they have the agricultural fields in the Monegros Desert near Los Monegros in España, in Spain. And apparently there was going to be, at one time, a huge resort, a European project called Gran Scala, to be built as a destination city of leisure for all ages. On a huge site, a 6,700-acre site in the desert of Los Monegros. The project included the construction of 32 casinos, 70 hotels, 5 theme parks, and a town of 100,000 inhabitants. Opening was planned for mid-2012. The project began in 2008. As of 2015, no development has taken place. And the project appears to be one of many in Spain that failed after the 2008 financial crisis left its mark very heavily in the county. Which, after reading that, I thought about this. I thought about the Salton Sea here in California. Actually, where I used to live in Southern California, it wasn't too far away. When I used to take off from LAX, you always flew over the Salton Sea. It's a shallow rift lake, saline, heavy on the salt, located directly on the San Andreas Fault, predominantly in California's Imperial and Coachella valleys. Yes, I said Coachella. The lake occupies the lowest elevation of the Salton Sink in the Colorado Desert of Imperial and Riverside counties in Southern California. Now, what I found fascinating about the Salton Sea was that it was going to be a big resort, and that failed. And I'm trying to find out. Oh, it doesn't really talk about that in this article. Well, it was going to be a big place. It was going to be the new Las Vegas. You would go there. And I say Las Vegas, like as if there are laws being broken in Las Vegas. But that's probably true. And at any rate, it was going to be a big development. And and I found out all this about the Salton Sea through a book called Weird California. I got this book about 15 years ago, and it talks all about the Salton Sea and about how these developments were made and they were abandoned, and there's like all these ruins of old hotels and casinos that never came to fruition. And the Rat Pack was supposed to play there. Well, the thing that did get successful out there, of course, in the Coachella Valley, you have the Coachella Music Festival. Did you know that Lucy, I Love Lucy, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were a big part of some of the developments out there, including the Thunderbird Heights track in Rancho Mirage, once the home of President Gerald Ford and wife Betty. Supposedly, also, it was the inspiration for the car known as the Thunderbird out there. The same area once served as a training ground for General George Patton's 3rd Army Troop and tank battalions. George Patton. The site is home to the El Paseo shopping district. Patton also trained in a huge plot of desert stretching from Chiriaco Summit, just off the eastern end of the valley, northward almost to Amboy, along the Route 66 in the Mojave Desert. Tank tracks from those maneuvers are still visible today in the open desert. And a museum dedicated to Patton is located in Chiriaco Summit. Patton was also a frequent guest at the Whittier Ranch House in Indio, a grand adobe structure which had faced the possibility of demolition as the ranch lands surrounding it were being developed. A grassroots organization had petitioned the city to preserve the structure for use as a VFW post. It has instead been restored and retained as the clubhouse for the new Whittier Ranch housing development. It is also now a California State Historic Site. And, you know, in Coachella, it's the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. That started back in 1993 when Pearl Jam performed at the Empire Polo Club while boycotting venues controlled by Ticketmaster. This, by the way, is run by the big ticket organization called Golden Voice, a subsidiary of AEG Live. The show validated the site's viability for hosting large events, leading to the inaugural Coachella Festival being held over the course of 2 days in October 1999, just 3 months after Woodstock 1999. Do you remember that? I remember The Daily Show making fun of Woodstock 99 and the way the hipster kids back then were just totally dirty and disgusting and rolling in the mud and just, it looked bad. Well, there is a desire even to this day for young people to go to events like that. And in fact, Coachella has changed in format. It was, for a short while, it was just 1 day a year, then it became 2 days, and now it says it is held on consecutive 3-day weekends in April, with each weekend having identical lineups. And we're talking bands reuniting, new bands, indie bands, all kinds of interesting music playing there, and art. Lots of art and installations, sculptures. And the success of Coachella led to Golden Voice establishing 2 additional music festivals at the site. Stagecoach, which is very country, and I know someone named Tammy who goes to that every year. She flies out. She lives in Kansas, and she flies out to that. And also Desert Trip. But what about on the East Coast? Well, not in the East Coast, but in the South. I heard all about, when I lived in Alabama, Bonnaroo. I've never been to Coachella. I've never been to Bonnaroo. I've never been to a huge outdoor festival. I don't think I can take it. I don't like getting sunburned to a crisp. But I had a friend named Mary in Alabama who talked about Bonnaroo a lot. And she was just a typical beautiful Southern belle. And I'm sure she's been to Bonnaroo a bunch. But it is an annual 4-day music festival developed and produced by Superfly Presents and AC Entertainment. It began in 2002. And it's in Manchester, Tennessee, which I did not realize I was so close to when I went to the Jack Daniel's distillery and went on the tour in Lynchburg, Tennessee. It wasn't that far from Huntsville, Alabama. It's probably at the most a 2-hour drive, but the festival typically starts at the second Thursday in June, lasts 4 days, and there is all kinds of music. You've got your Americana and bluegrass and country, of course, but there's also indie rock, classic rock, pop, electronica, reggae, alternative music, hip-hop, jazz. Kanye West played there, had a huge... This was a grand spectacle. He was late. It happened like at 2 a.m. He had a UFO land on stage. It was crazy. So it's a big show. Paul McCartney, Radiohead, Beach Boys, Stevie Wonder, Pearl Jam. They've all been there. And it was largely influenced by rock concerts in the late 60s and early 70s, as well as the massive Phish festivals. Remember the band Phish? And it is a nod to the Monterey International Pop Festival, which happened all the way back in 1967. Yes, 50 years ago. The Summer of Love. Well, is that the summer of 69? Or 68? Maybe there was multiple summers of loves. I don't know. I wasn't alive then. Well, actually, I was just about alive. But I would like to also mention that Wonder Woman, they're making a sequel. And Comic-Con is going on. Speaking about big, huge events that have become legendary now. Comic-Con from San Diego, and I would love to explore the origins of that. That's a fascinating origin story for... Speaking of origin stories, most of the movies that are featured in Comic-Con are origin stories. This is how Superman began. This is how Batman began. All these superhero stories. But Wonder Woman is going to be getting a sequel. It isn't not only Warner Brothers' most successful DC Universe property now, it is also the highest grossing movie of the summer. It beat out Guardians of the Galaxy. Volume 2 Wonder Woman is what they're going to call it. Or what? Whoops. Nope. That's something else. But Wonder Woman is also one of the highest rated films on Rotten Tomatoes and is the DCU's biggest critical success with both reviewers and fans. Patty Jenkins. She is the first female director to have the highest grossing movie of all time. She has spoken before about how she'd like to return to direct the sequel, confirming that she would like to do another period piece, but set it in a different time. Wonder Woman takes place in the end of World War I. And Justice League is going to be the next movie Wonder Woman is in. That comes out November 17th. Hey, by the way, speaking of amazing women, or women that have had to put up with a lot, let's talk about Theresa May. She is going to remain in her job until at least 2020, said the British Transport Minister. She could even fight another national election. Following reports of cabinet infighting, Theresa May would continue as Prime Minister once Brexit has been achieved in March of 2019. And according to the British Transport Minister, Chris Grayling, this is because she commands the overwhelming support of the Conservative Party. And finally, you know, Basil the Boxer makes his appearance on this show quite a bit. And now, apparently, you'll be able to translate what your pet is saying. According to a report commissioned by internet giant Amazon, futurist William Hyam believes the technology could be a reality within the next decade The findings come from a report called Shop the Future, which was commissioned to coincide with the launch of Amazon's new platform under the same name. Alongside Hyam, the paper was co-authored by another futurist from London named Anne-Lisa Kajair. The idea of so-called pet translators has existed for a few years now, but the technology behind the product is yet to catch up to the vision. Thanks to artificial intelligence, as we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley, and machine learned projects being spearheaded by academics, that may soon change. Innovative products that succeed are based around a genuine and major consumer need. The amount of money now spent on pets, they are becoming fur babies to so many people, said Hyam. This means there is a huge consumer demand for this. The authors predict that future pet translator applications will be able to play back a pet's bark or a cat's meow and tell you what they mean. In the near future, devices may be placed directly into a dog's collar. Hey, this sounds just like Up! Squirrel! Which would tell the owner what the pet wants. Despite the lofty ambition, however, any timescale for release remains murky. The Amazon-funded researcher based his analysis on the work of Professor Kon Slobodchikov, I love Russian names, from Northern Arizona University. That's a wonderful Russian school, who has dedicated 30 years to studying the language and behaviors of North American prairie dogs. Aren't those little guys cute? Using cutting-edge technology. Using his research, Slobodchikov is currently attempting to raise the necessary funds to build a fully fledged cat and dog translation device. Next show is going to be Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. Thank you for listening to this wonderful Sunday show. And tell all your friends that the show is daily, even though possibly it is not. But hey, we do our best, right? And may the tenure of this show be a long one. I'm sure it will. It's already been, over 6 years. So I think we shall be around a long time, as I hope you are. Apparently your 10-year-olds will. Average age going to be 100. Wow. Wow shuts wow. Have a great rest of your weekend and a great week.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!